Welcome, my friends, to the Khaos Kreed Podcast, where we discuss masculinity, emotional intelligence, and what it takes to be the greatest version of ourselves, then clash that with thought-provoking experience and perspective to unleash the greatest answers to the question, what does it mean to be rebel-minded? The space is here, the battleground set, and our creed committed to. I'll see all of you soldiers on the other side. All right, guys, I want to welcome you to the first interview that we're having on the Khaos Kreed Podcast. I'm super excited, especially because I got a guy in here that originally I thought was this super interesting, amazing person. And the weird thing was that he came to me first about speaking. And I had never thought about in my previous episodes actually doing interviews. But I honestly think this is going to be one of the greatest things that we can do to actually broaden the perspective and get this idea of masculinity out there and changing the idea of what that is and what it means to be real and authentic, and also with our emotional intelligence and what we're trying to shoot for here. And the guy that I have today, Jake, is a guy that I know personally, and he's intrigued me ever since we very first talked, especially because of his age. He's far younger than me. I've got almost 10 years on him, but his mindset and his balance in life is mind-blowing. So I can't wait for you guys to hear him. Now, there's some differences between him and I. We've both been through powerlifting. We both love the sport. We both have an idea of what we want to be and what emotional intelligence is to us, and also this idea of stoicism and philosophy that really drives us both to be better humans. And I think in the end, that's really the most important thing, is for us to drive to be better, no matter what we're doing. Now, to introduce Jake, I kind of want to bring up some facts first. Jake I first knew him as being a bouncer, which was the coolest thing, especially because the guy's huge. So he just kind of fits that stereotype. But there's so much more behind that. Right now, Jake is doing exterior house siding, which I have major respect for because I've been an electrician a long time. It takes a lot of, we're going to go ahead and say manliness to be in labor work. And so I have a lot of respect for that. I have no shame for it because I've been in it as long as I can remember. And him being in that is rough, but like I said, respectful. But he is actually in the process of wanting to become a police officer. And that is the next best thing for me because I tried it myself. And I knew that I didn't have the off switch. I knew that the stress had gotten to me too much. And I respect all the guys in law enforcement because of the things that they deal with. Now, I know Jake has been in school, and from what he's told me, he's got an associate's degree in applied sciences, and he's a post-academy graduate. Oh man, yeah, super cool. He's certified for patrol. He is actually NASM certified to be a personal trainer. It looks like in special needs with the elderly, bodybuilding, diet and nutrition, and general fitness overall. He has extensive personal studies in the fields of psychology and philosophy. Oh man, I'm going to fall in love with this dude. On a side note as well, he has a psychological and philosophical questions on a site called Quora with over 61,000 views on his content from last year. Now, like I said before, I know Jake from powerlifting first and foremost. That's kind of how we got to know each other. And this guy's ability to lift heavy weight is like among the gods, seriously. And from a dude that can lift over 700 pounds, deadlifting is mind-blowing to me. Actually, he's nipping on the heels of a current guy that we both know. And we'll get to that as I introduce him. But he's competed in 8 to 10 powerlifting meets to date. He's gone to nationals. He's placed 4th in his weight class, the 205, and the Division Team 3 with a 565 squat, a 424 bench, and a 724 deadlift at 19 years old. Jesus, man. So I'm going to ask Jake to introduce himself, and if there's anything else he wants to include, we're going to let him do that. Jake Needham, welcome to the podcast. I'm stoked to have you here, man. This is freaking awesome. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Dude, this is awesome to be here. I've always wanted to be on a podcast of some sort, so this is phenomenal for me. Just to get the ability and the opportunity to share the things that I've learned and accrued over the years, regardless of my age, just digging deep into the literature and being able to share that on a broad spectrum is huge for me. But he basically covered like everything there is to know about me, so I don't know what else really.
Podcast done.
Podcast done. Cut it. Yeah. No, but I mean that's basically the main points. That's how my life's gone so far, and honestly, I'm just ready to hop in and start getting into the real meat and core of this podcast and start getting some of these topics out there.
Dude, yeah, let's do it. So, as we were saying, powerlifting is how you and I met, and one of the first guys that I actually met in the gym that we go to was Jesse Norris. And this guy, at your age, I think 19, right?
Yeah.
Was putting up these crazy numbers, has these crazy world records. And then I see this guy, Jake, come in, and he's like nipping on the heels of this dude. And how old are you now, Jake? 20?
So I'm 23.
23 now. To have that potential, I feel like I'm strong at my weight. But Jake's got me by like 100 pounds, man. So the first thing I really want to ask you is, why this sport? Where I think a lot of us, once we're deep into competition, we love athleticism for a particular reason. Right. But why is that important to you? Why powerlifting?
Right. It's such a deep question for me too, because it's so much more than picking weight up and putting it down, which is like the joke I kind of play on. It's like, oh, I pick stuff up and put it down.
Yeah.
And I kind of leave it at that.
A little humble.
It's so much more than that to me, because I feel like taking the metaphysical principles that I learned from powerlifting and being able to apply that to actual reality outside of lifting. Like the principles you learn in powerlifting is how to overcome yourself, overcome obstacles, and make yourself physically into a better and mental person. And if you apply that into any field in life, you can see direct results just as you see in the gym. And I've learned that just by powerlifting. Another really big reason I like powerlifting so much is because it's individual in nature. So it's you against you, right? So the issue I had playing football or basketball and stuff was I could do the best I possibly could out on the court of the field, and if my team's sucking, we lose. Whereas powerlifting, it's like, if you suck, you suck. It's you against you. You're the one that caused it. And I like that so much more than team sports, because it's all internal. It's all mental, and it's overcoming yourself, which I think is more applicable personally to life, because it's you versus you out there, and it's always been that.
No, I think, dude, that's freaking spot on. It's weird that you say that. I come from riding motorcycles a lot, being in motocross, and when I got into powerlifting, that was one of the biggest things for me, was that in motocross, out on the track, it all depends on my training. Right. It depends on my skill. It's a one-man sport. And once I started powerlifting, I realized that same thing. Right. And it's super awesome to be able to make accomplishments just on your own. Like there's a lot of things that we need teammates, out in the world. Like we're tribal. We're meant to be helped by other people. But in these sports, it really makes you dedicated, right? Like it really makes you dial in, because you're the only one that's really going to get you there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Minus, a trainer helping you with programming, having somebody to keep you accountable. But first and foremost, it's you, right? Yeah. Would you say that's the biggest thing that you gain from this sport is having that fortitude and having that discipline, and that actually being a drive in the rest of your life?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the discipline is such a huge aspect of powerlifting too, because you're the one that's got to drive you to the gym. You're the one that's got to pick up the weight. Yeah. You're the one that's got to eat properly. No one can do that for you. And if you learn to get all your ducks in a row, and the thing too that people overlook too, especially when you're competing, is you're prepping. It could be all year, especially for nationals. People prep all year to go to nationals. You're prepping for one specific day in one specific time period to perform the best and most optimal you can. And to get that dialed in to be that accurate is extremely difficult. And if you can do that, then, and you learn how to be that disciplined, man, that is just gold. That is mental gold for you and for the rest of your life that you can take on to anything.
That's crazy. I haven't got to the national level. I'm not sure if I will now that I'm kind of training differently. Yeah. But for guys like Jake, it takes more than just being the biggest guy. People can sit back and say, well, he's got good genetics, he's the biggest dude. Right. But any big dude, if he doesn't have that same discipline, he's not going to compete on a national level, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't matter what you decide to do. Your size is only going to get you so far. And that's why I give so much power and credit to Jake, because he knows that it goes beyond just having good genetics. It goes beyond just being able to put naturally big numbers on there. Yeah. Because at my size, I have a relativity factor. But all the guys that are my size that are putting in more work than me are going to take the gold. Mm-hmm. And even in Jake's case, it's the same exact position. Guys his size may have a genetic ability, but they're all fighting for the elite spots, right. And they're doing it through the discipline that they, take in their day-to-day lives. Absolutely. One of the things that I was super intrigued to ask you, mm-hmm. because you are the person that you are, when it comes to athletics, when it comes to being powerful, being strong, all of this stuff, it's very instinctive for males. It's the testosterone build. We just feel amazing doing it. Mm-hmm. Now, any of us can really go in and lift, and any of us can really just feel that powerful, right. Thing and that testosterone build. But the big thing is taking off that athletic mask to uncover what you really are. So, mm-hmm. how does masculinity tie into this sport for you? How do you decide to be a multi-dimensional person outside of your lifting, especially being younger age and being, not having as much life experience as everybody else? How come you don't come off as this cocky, arrogant dude mm-hmm. that can put up all this weight?
Yeah, absolutely. And then the temptation for that's always there, right?
Yeah.
Because especially when I came in, little backstory here, I actually started out doing physique. That was that was like my absolute goal. I wanted to be a physique competitor. I wanted to do it so bad. And I went into a gym and I was seeking a personal trainer to help me because I was just kind of getting into like the real fundamentals of diet and stuff. And I was like, man, this is a lot to take in. It's a lot of information. I need someone to kind of sort this out for me. And what ended up happening was we did deadlifts on the first day and I pulled 545. And he's like, okay, you're powerlifting now. He didn't even let me get into physique. I never did a physique meet. He immediately started training me in powerlifting, and I've been addicted to it ever since. And that initial response is to be like, oh man, like I'm naturally a beast, right? Mm-hmm. But that's not it at all, because everybody faces their own challenges. And for me personally, the weights never defined who I was. The numbers never defined me. It was my mental fortitude, my emotional control, and my mental stability that defined who I was and my personality. And refinement of that has been a lifelong goal that I'm seeking to take on. It never ends. You can never truly get to your true self, but it's that process of individuation in Jungian psychology. That's what it'd be called. Individuation. That process is something you have to be engaged in life. And that seems so much bigger to me and so much more humbling than lifting was. Lifting's just this tiny little speck on that. And to me, that's like, okay, I go in, I lift to get good numbers and to feel good, but everybody's in this process and I'm nowhere near as close to where I want to be in this. And that humbled me so much because everybody's in that journey personally. And so we're all just on that journey together. And like, to me, there was no need or want anymore to place myself above others just based on raw strength.
Dude. And this is what I mean by Jake's age, is for him to face these things mentally and realize that he's not above or beyond anybody else because we're all on these different paths. That's mind-blowing to me, because I at your age, mine's a little bit different because I was ultimately intimidated by every other man. Right. Which also had to do with my small stature, being 5'3", 135 pounds, intimidation. But at your age, I was trying to find what would make me feel better than the rest of the dudes. How can I be better? How can I be better seen? How are people going to respond? Right. What is it going to take for me? And that's what I thought being masculine was. And that's what I thought being real was finding those external things to make me the best. Right. So the crazy part is that doesn't seem to affect you. Where do you think that comes from? Is that from parenting, or is that from certain experiences? What makes you think about all the other people and not putting yourself above and beyond them in your endeavors? Because you do have you do have great intelligence. You've got great wisdom at your age. You've got great physical ability at your age. And